Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be talking about, of course, the ECP's verdict that has come out regarding the PTI's prohibited funding case, something, of course, that was much awaited for many long years. And it has come out speaking up against the PTI and the chairman, Imran Khan, and the former Prime Minister as well, saying that the party did indeed receive funds from prohibited accounts and that many of the bank accounts were not disclosed by the PTI. And that the submissions given by Imran Khan throughout the years were inaccurate. This is something that was discussed in the PDM meeting at the Prime Minister's house today, which was, of course, chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in which a number of issues and actions were discussed as to what is going to be the next course of action for the PDM. And this, of course, is something that we're going to be looking at even further as to what really are the options that the PDM has. And then, of course, we see that on the other hand, the PTI has given its own statements talking about, of course, the fact that there is no wrongdoing, that the banning of PTI or Imran Khan is beyond the PMLN's control, and that PTI and its leadership enjoys a popularity that is not going to be affected by such measures, still also calling out against the Chief Election Commissioner and the ECP, saying that the decisions have been biased and that the ECP has no authority to start any such disqualification procedures that is being talked about. What the PDM decides to do, of course, in the aftermath of this meeting today still remains to be seen. It's going to be discussed in the cabinet meeting tomorrow as well. So we're going to be seeing what sort of measures are going to be put forward. Of course, there's disqualification that is being spoken about. There's also names given on the ECL. But really how it's going to impact national politics, PTI, the different political parties and their stances and their narratives, and what sort of future courses of action do we see, and the available legal choices that the political parties have. We'll be discussing all of that in today's show. For this and more, as always, I've been joined in the studios by Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And I've been joined online by Mr. Javed Jadoon, who's a political analyst, and I've also been joined by Barrister Safiullah Qadri, who's a legal expert. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us and being a part of the debate. I'll start with you, Javed Sahab. When we talk about what has been going on, of course, there's a lot of fingers that are being pointing out. There's a lot of things that are being spoken about against the PTI and Imran Khan. The issue of honesty and credibility, the issue of him being Sadiq and Amin, the issue of the case that is being put forward regarding the prohibited funds that the PTI has obtained money from, and as a result of these measures, what actions or what consequences the PTI must now suffer. This, of course, is under discussion. In terms of the kind of political scenario that currently exists, we have, of course, seen the PDM bringing forth its own conclusions, talking about what steps they're going to be taking and how what sort of justice should be done against the PTI and its leadership. And then on the other hand, we see the PTI denying any wrongdoing and saying that there is no such problem. In fact, the ECP is the one who is inaccurate and biased at the moment, is not giving a fair decision. What do you think of this entire matter and the way that it's going to affect national politics in the coming days, especially the role of the PDM and PTI?
I think what is unfolding in the political arena is a little bizarre, because the whole PDM is out to vindicate its position against the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. What the leadership of Pakistan Democratic Movement is saying, it probably is beyond the domain of legal framework, in the sense that they're trying to take the political mileage by trying to tarnish or whatever the situation is. We know that the decision came from the Election Commission of Pakistan, and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf does have the chance to go to the courts, the top courts in Pakistan, and then I think will be played out in the High Court, Islamabad High Court, and maybe later on as Supreme Court of Pakistan as well. But as far as the political situation is concerned, I think it is purely an attempt to take maximum mileage because of this verdict of Election Commission of Pakistan against Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Right. Barrister Ghori, of course, when we talk about the legal options available, both sides have been talking about this, that of course the PTI is, of course, wants to challenge the ECP's verdict and is talking about contempt of court as well. And then the PDM, of course, is seeking disqualification and even calling out for arrests of PTI leadership and even putting their names on the ECL. What really are the options on the table for both parties, and what do you think is the most likelihood that these measures are going to be taken?
Right. So to begin with, Sana, it's a little difficult to predict in advance what's going to happen for the simple reason that cases like these take a very long time. This judgment itself came out after 8 years, and PTI had sought a record 100 adjournments in this case before this judgment was given. So we can expect that this is going to be a matter that will get delayed for sure. For sure, this is something that can be a writing on the wall, for the simple reason that the ECP is not considered a court of law by many jurists. It's still a debate. We don't exactly know whether the ECP can be considered a court in the strict legal sense. So the ECP now needs to refer this matter to a court. The ECP itself has asked the PTI to has given the PTI a show cause notice to come and explain where they got the funding from. And after that, the maximum that the ECP can do at this stage is confiscate the funds. Now, of course, understandably, it's a sizable amount of funds. It's close to $2 million. So that in itself will reflect very negatively on PTI. But that's just about the extent of what the ECP can do. Now, when the PTI now go to challenge it, they have obviously appealed before the Supreme Court. And they've also filed a contempt petition in the High Court, which is likely to fail. And they've also filed a very strange petition within the High Court seeking a direction that similar cases against the People's Party and PMLN may also be decided quickly. That's a separate thing. However, the matter, of course, will rest with the Supreme Court and likely to take a very long time before anything happens. We have prior examples of cases like Hanif Abbasi versus Imran Khan, which took several years to decide what it was, because there are several steps that need to be taken. Right now, if Imran Khan is to be disqualified, which is one of those things that the PDM is doing, they will need to seek a court declaration. Once they have a court declaration, then that declaration needs to be executed. At every stage, all of these things can be challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. And there's no doubt about the fact that that will happen. Also, as far as confiscating these funds is concerned, even if the ECP were to pass an order confiscating those funds, the PTI would once again challenge that order as well within the Supreme Court. And in my opinion, because the issue of funding will come down to who the auditors of PTI were, it's going to be a matter that is more of a issue of legal of facts rather than law. So we'll have auditors being called to the court, them being put through examination in chief and then cross-examinations. These things, unfortunately, once again in Pakistan, take several years. So I'm not hopeful of any decision anytime
soon.
No,
I understand the time issue that you keep referring to, but I also want to understand what sort of options still exist. I understand that you've pointed out a few of them, and of course the issue of disqualification keeps on being something that the PDM keeps reiterating and talking about. Whether or not that's going to take a long time or whether we'll see it or not, is there a strong case of disqualification?
Yes. So the disqualification can take place based on the affidavit that was submitted by Imran Khan. Now, the affidavit and the ECP has held that the affidavit is a gross misrepresentation of what the real facts were. In fact, the PTI continued to insist that they were getting money from only 8 accounts, even after this matter went to the ECP. So they had a fair number of opportunities to try and do that. And so this will open up two things. Now once again, when I talk about the time issue, the way disqualification would take place is that this matter would go to a court and criminal prosecution would take place. In that criminal prosecution, it would have to be proven that Imran Khan knowingly lied. And there's a case to be made out that he did knowingly lie, because these are sizable amounts. Nobody just gets $2 million in their accounts. Nobody can say that, oh, I didn't know these $2 million suddenly came into my account and I had no idea. So it would be a burden. The burden would to a large degree be lying on Imran Khan to try and dissuade the courts and try and prove that he in fact had no idea that such massive amounts of money were coming in from foreign companies and that they had nothing to do with him knowing or not knowing. And if convicted, then this would lead to a disqualification, the same way Mia Mohammad Nawaz Sharif was disqualified. So this can happen. Imran Khan, however, his redeeming factor can only be auditors at this stage. He can say my audit lied to me, and those auditors would take the fall instead.
Barrister
Okay.
Gori, if we talk about the funds, of course we know that obviously the funds on a side, they were generated by the individuals as well, not from the company, but of course they're in their own capacity. Individuals, especially foreign overseas Pakistanis, they have been pouring in money. Could we say that this, even if we see on social media, there are so many statements, I mean, video statements made by so many individuals who are claiming that we have put money in, and of course, it was an open account and a fund account, and we have been putting money, and still they are doing it. Could we say that this factor can save Imran Khan?
So Imran Khan has already been saved on that account. I think the PTI has been working overtime to try and miseducate the people of Pakistan on what really happened. The court has clearly stated that there are two different types of funding. One, and there are two illegalities that could be committed. The first charge against him was being foreign aided, and foreign aided is the dangerous part. So if you are foreign aided would presume that you are receiving funds from a foreign government or a political party. These would suggest that you are compromised and you do not have the best interest of Pakistan in your heart. That was something that the ECP cleared him of. So that's not an issue, and that's something that the PTI says, but at the same time tries to confuse the people by saying that this is not what we are. The ECP has clearly said you are not foreign aided. You are in fact loyal to Pakistan. The problem is not that of PTI's loyalty to Pakistan. The problem is that of the source of those funds. Pakistan is a country that has been hit by FATF. We need to keep records of the money that is coming in. And when you have money that is coming in from foreigners, from companies, so there are individuals, of course, there is no bar on individuals contributing. But when companies are contributing, then there is an immediate issue. There is an immediate issue because then there is a presumption that that a government will try and favor a company, their business interests in a manner that is beneficial to them. An individual can, of course, contribute. There is nothing that prohibits individuals from contributing under the Representation of People's Act. But companies are a grey area of Pakistan. Pakistan is not USA, where companies can contribute any problems. Pakistan has very strict laws under the Representation of People's Act, and so we have a clear indication. Imran Khan has been exonerated under Representation of People's Act, Section 6, Subsection 3. It is the problem remains his funds from the companies which were once again not declared. These were undeclared funds, and when the ECP asked him, he gave an affidavit saying these are funds that we have never received, and it was
Right.
only
Exactly.
then that they received them.
Right.
Exactly. Javed Jadoon Sahab, can we say that the essence of this law, the prohibited fund should not be reaching to a political party, is that nobody should be allowed from the outside of the country to create a stake within a political party, knowing the fact that in future it might get the get to the premier office of Pakistan, and it can be a legislature in future, so they can legislate in our favor. And we saw that throughout Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, it advocated for the overseas voters, that the overseas Pakistanis should be given a right to vote. Can we say that the overseas Pakistanis, they have been pouring in money in the funds for the PTI? That is why PTI was advocating for them?
And by the way, sir, let me also ask you a question about optics. How exactly is it going to play out among the people? We have seen that media, at least when it comes to media channels, their attitude has been more or less tribal, in the sense that it depends on which side of the divide you are on. But when you talk about the common man on the street, how does this play out? Is it going to hit PTI's popularity at all?
Okay, Farrukh, thank you very much. Let me allow to answer the second question first. I think it is very important to understand that as far as the support base of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf in general and in Imran Khan in particular is concerned, this is not going to decrease or decline in the coming days, weeks, or months, because he has got a very galvanized political support base in Pakistan. He has proved recently in the Punjab by-elections that his party is one of the most popular parties in Punjab as well. So if you look at the situation from the political perspective, I don't see any big harm coming to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf vis-a-vis this recent verdict of the Election Commission of Pakistan. People of Pakistan are looking at Imran Khan as a leader. I mean, I'm talking about his support base. I'm not giving my own opinion. I'm talking about the young support base he has in Pakistan. They don't give a damn what happens as far as the cases are concerned or the political opinion is concerned. They simply go out and they extend their support wholeheartedly.
Hang on,
to
hang on, hang
Imran
on.
Khan
Sorry
and
to
Imran
cut you,
Khan
sir.
alone.
Sorry to cut you, sir. You are saying that ideology plays no part in PTI's political activism?
Farrukh, ideology doesn't play any role in any political party's philosophy. Look at
short.
Pakistan Muslim League and look at Pakistan People's Party, which was a sort of a leftist liberal political party of Pakistan. It is no more the case as far as PPP is concerned. Pakistan Muslim League and also believes that it is a right winger. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf does the same thing, and there are other political parties as well. You give me one example where we could quote the political ideology is a kind of a driving force behind any single political party in Pakistan. So I think singling out only Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, lacking any political ideology, would be a bit unfair.
Right.
But I think, yeah.
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
first
I
question,
think-
sir. Javed sir.
Yes, yes. I think as far as the legal battle is concerned, as Barrister Safia Lahori pointed out, I think it's a long, drawn-out battle between the two political camps. Imran Khan has a lot of options, and he is going to exercise all those options with the optics as well. He has got his, the two dimensions he's going to play out in the middle. One is political and the other is legal. He has already formed his legal team, which is going to assist Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf in charting out the future course of action as far as the legal battle is concerned. He is going to mix the political battle with the legal battle as well. For example, he
Right,
has called out
absolutely.
his supporters
And I
tomorrow.
want to talk a little more about the political battle as well, because we keep hearing that this is not going to impact the PTI or its popularity, and it may be unfortunate that we have that sort of following of other political parties as well. But of course, at the end of the day, the issue or the legality of the issue or the concern that the prohibited funds shouldn't exist really seems to be at the back burner at the moment, and the narrative that is being put forward by different political parties and the political game being employed seems to be what is being talked about. And Farrukh, when we listen to the PDM as well and their conference today, they speak about the statements have come out talking about matters of national security as well, and somehow linking all of that with what is going on and the fact that it is something that we need to be aware of. We need to be concerned about that there is actually involvement or influence of foreign elements in the PTI, and then of course within Pakistan its workings as well. Something that was earlier a stance that was put forward by the PTI as well concerning the conspiracy since the Prime Minister's ouster. So it seems that all of this is really just being utilized as a political game, much rather than actually being concerned of what the case is, whether or not some action needs to be taken because of some measure.
Right. Sana, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I think in the presence of Raja Faisal, I don't know how many opportunities I get, so I'm going to lump together as many things as possible.
Sure.
And I'm glad that Jadoon Saab and Safi are with us. Through your position, I wanted to extend a request to Safi. He mashallah, speaks very fast. And there are times when my processor cannot keep up. So he'll have to actually slow down a bit. But regarding what Javed Jadoon Saab said, with due respect, I'm very respectfully going to disagree. I think PTI is taking pressure for certain reasons. There are tells also. Perhaps it has something to do with optics / ideology plus legality of the matter. And there are three nuances which are very important. I'm going to talk about tells also, why I conclude that they are taking pressure.
Okay.
But at this moment, let us first look at how the case is going to unfold. On one side is, of course, the show cause, which is primarily about the funds itself. So at best or worst, they might have to actually return the money, which is going to be confiscated by the government of Pakistan. But the second issue that is being called affidavit, and you can see that there is a nuance which is building, and there seems to be some kind of change in the terminology when you look at how media is being approached by PTI people. They have started calling it certificate, not affidavit, right? This undertaking, they say, was not under oath. So that's why he cannot be disqualified. I don't know whether it is going to play out that way or not, but one thing I can be certain of, it is going to end up in the honorable court, and the government and the ruling party will be seeking that he be disbarred or disqualified. This is the second aspect which is important. The third one has more to do with spin rather than the actual situation, because we know that it is now called prohibited fund case because of their lawyer who went to Election Commission and actually submitted this prayer. But there are people who are being mentioned as foreigners, and particularly in Pakistan, certain Indian names play out very well, right? You can use them. There was one Sethi woman, a lady called Sethi, her name is playing out, and then it is going to be used as a propaganda plank by the ruling coalition. It might not actually disqualify the party or ban the party, but it is going to be used to undercut the ideology of foreign conspiracy that Imran Khan Sahab was actually expanding and spreading throughout the country. So that is a very important thing as well. Now the tells. One tell is tomorrow's protest in Islamabad, Lahore and Peshawar. Something very interesting happened, and I think that there was something fast and loose, and somehow PTI got tricked. PTI earlier, government sources or people close to the government kept on saying that the verdict is going to come on Friday. So when this story had actually expanded on social media, PTI made the call, and that is tomorrow, right? After that, within no time we heard, once it had been established that they are going to protest on Thursday, the verdict was announced that it is going to come on Tuesday. That's why somehow now what is going to happen tomorrow might not have that kind of impact as it could have if the result was going to be announced on Friday. The second thing is Imran Khan Sahab's visit to Pakistan. We know that whenever there is a serious crisis, he goes there, and he is a man of faith, so he goes there. But there is another very interesting thing when you look at the overall situation, in that the actual tiff that emerged because of which perhaps Imran Khan Sahab is out of power, is that everyone wants to believe that Imran Khan was in power not because of some spiritual influence, but because of their vote or their support. So at this moment, I think that the situation is going to get tougher for PTI, just to make it understand that it has an army of good people who are capable, like Fawad Chaudhry, for example. He's a gift from God, right? And very articulate man, and today he actually did his best to present the case. But it might be some kind of subliminal messaging going on that rather than Pakistan, there are other places you might have been better to visit.
Yeah, I just need a clarification, Faisal. Hold on, and I understand you're very eager. But Farrukh, when we talk about whatever actions and measures the PTI is taking and what are the tells of them being worried at the moment, do you think that this is being perceived as PTI is in trouble, or the fact that PTI is the victim, and that martyrhood complex?
Okay. Both. I think that what is happening, their social media influencers, PTI's aligned people, are actually connecting it with what Raja Faisal was just pointing out, regarding, and that was that if expat Pakistanis can actually send so much money to the country, why is it that they should not have a voice or influence, right? And you must have seen videos upon videos on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram and elsewhere. But the problem is that while this is a way to communicate, I think that the people of Pakistan, especially who are driven by ideology or PTI's own value system will be taking heat, and they must be thinking that something awry has taken place.
Yeah, Sana,
Yes, Faisal.
everyone was talking about,
If
there were a few Indian...
if you allow me
Yes,
a brief
Javed,
interjection.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, just brief comments
Go ahead,
what
go ahead.
Farrukh just said. I would like to add something. Farrukh, we have seen in the past as well that whenever there was any attempt to marginalize a political party through legal methods or otherwise, it always failed because political parties are banned, outlawed, and then they re-emerge on a different name because they always have the support base among the people. When you have the support base among the people, it doesn't matter if the name is Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or something else. We have seen in the past as well. There are many examples, for you know and I know, trying to marginalize any political party through
And that's a very
legal
good point,
means
sir.
or methods. Yes.
Sir, that is a very good point. But pray tell me, why was it that in the short run, the state of Pakistan still thought that it can take action against that party, from MQM and NAB to PMLN, and later on they came back and they became part of the mainstream? There is a reason, because immediate interest or concerns affect the decisions, and that might be happening this time also. In the short run, it will be difficult for PTI. In the long run, it might get vindicated and come back as perhaps more strongly than we perceive. But in the short run, it is going to take some kind of toll. Is it not true?
I agree with you, Farrukh. I definitely agree with you. In the short term, they will have some kind of a setback, but in the longer term, as you said, they will re-emerge as a strong political party, as a strong political force,
All right.
which is going to
Yes,
confront
Faisal,
all
you
other
had
political
something to say? Yes.
Yeah, Sana, everyone is talking about, obviously there were Indian names as well. There was another very interesting name, and that was obviously, I think it was Gurmeet Singh or whoever it was. On social media, people kept on saying that nobody's taking his name for only one reason, that he only paid $50.
And let record
cash.
show it was Raja Faisal who brought it on record.
Oh, I did. Sana, I wanted to go towards Barrister Wori about obviously the overseas Pakistanis, and can we say that this case can take a new twist? When we talk about overseas Pakistanis, and earlier I asked Javed Saab as well about this, that of course Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is the party that actually advocated for a right of vote for overseas Pakistanis, and at the same time overseas Pakistanis are the ones who actually funded very lavishly to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. So in this way, can we say that that the PTI has a tendency to attract money, and once they get money and once they get to the power, they can legislate on behalf of a certain number of people who invest in them?
Right, so I think PTI has already done that. We have already seen when they tried launching, giving overseas Pakistanis voting rights, when they had electronic voting machines and they started working on internet voting methods for overseas Pakistanis, because it's very obvious that PTI, as opposed to other parties, does have an overwhelming support from overseas Pakistanis. That much is clear, and PTI wants to keep utilizing it. I think I'll sort of go back to the discussion that was having earlier and talk about another tell that PTI is showing, that shows that PTI has in fact taken a hit, which is the fact that PTI's outright defense to this entire fiasco is not protecting themselves or not getting back at what they think they have done right or wrong, but instead constantly berating the Chief Election Commissioner for not deciding the cases against PMLN and People's Party. So if your best friend says, oh, you gave a decision against me but not against that person, it means that, and if this is the singular defense that you are propagating everywhere, if this is what your supporters are talking about, then it means it's not a very good defense to begin with. That you did not have much to say. You feel like you have been disqualified. Now you feel that others should also be disqualified. And so we see that there are reasons to believe that PTI has taken a substantial hit. Also, I would like to add here that PTI was the only party that continued to propagate the mantra that it was clean, that it was without any corruption charges or any corruption decisions against it, and it was the party of honest people. So that mantra has now been dispelled.
Sorry, how do you actually qualify this entire thing as evidence of corruption? I understand that there might be misdeclaration, but that is not essentially corruption, is it?
I hope, firstly, I hope I'm speaking slower. I'm making a, concrete effort.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep up.
Yes.
But
But
go ahead.
secondly, the reason why I say this is because we are not talking now about the legal aspects of the case, but rather the political implications. When people go out on the streets, they can now say, or PMLN or People's Party can now just put this case forward as evidence, even though it is not guilty until innocent until proven guilty, and they have not been proven guilty. But they will continue to highlight this case, as many cases have been filed against People's Party, many cases have been filed against PMLN that have not been decided.
Right.
PTI has that same thing. So,
right. So whether or not that distinction is being made, of course,
Yes.
this is the question. Javed Sab, another issue is, of course, as I mentioned earlier, when there was talk coming in with regards to matters of national security as well, and we've heard since the start of the year a lot of other big words as well, such as a foreign conspiracy, such as treason, and many aspects that have been put forward in terms of our political scenario, and it has become sort of common language, common jargon to be used against each other. Do you think that perhaps these words or these issues have lost some of their meaning, and the people in general have been desensitized as to what exactly we're talking about, because everything seems to be a conspiracy, everything seems to be an act of treason, and every matter a matter of national security?
Excellent question.
Absolutely, Sana, you're very right that I think these words definitely have lost their real meaning in Pakistan, because every now and then we declare somebody or some political party or some individual as a traitor or committing treason against Pakistan. I think whatever is going on has to stop right now, because there's no one a traitor in Pakistan. There's not a single political party which is not a patriotic political party. Parties can make mistakes, they can commit blunders, but we really can't term them as the traitors or the unpatriotic political entities in Pakistani political diaspora. Because I think it is very easy to label someone as a traitor, but very difficult to prove that allegation. So why not fight a political battle in a political way and not label anyone
but
a
Javed
traitor?
Sahab, who waits for this proof, or who really puts a lot of substance on any matter of proof regarding this? I mean, accusing someone seems to do the damage enough.
I think, Sana, it has stopped damaging anyone in Pakistan, because the treason charges and all that stuff is going on for a long time in Pakistan. I think the people have stopped believing whoever is doing that, as far as the treason charges are concerned or being unpatriotic is concerned. I think it is about time that, as Farrukh was pointing out at the outset, that we have to be, as far as the political parties are concerned, they need to go for the political ideologies, because the people of Pakistan look towards every political party. They would like to differentiate between them on ideological basis, and it is extremely hard for them to differentiate between different political parties as far as their ideologies are concerned. Look at their manifestos, more or less the same. Look at their ideologies, more or less the same. So it is, I think, for the people of Pakistan, for the voter, it is extremely difficult to differentiate as far as the politics based on political ideologies are concerned. So why not go for the political debates? Why not go for the concrete issues Pakistan is faced with? And then if the political parties try and deliver, I think people would start believing in them.
Your answer is fascinating, especially because there seems to be a kind of shift within PTI's own narrative. First, it was called Tehreek-e-Insaf, and it was an anti-corruption party. But of late, it has been talking about foreign conspiracies, right? So it has become anti-intervention party. But now, when these monies actually come and somehow the government actually gets to connected with that, is it not going to damage PTI? There is trouble, and there is deep trouble. Trouble is Congress party back in 70s when it was reduced to three seats in India. But deep trouble is now when there seems to be a government and state machinery and business machinery that keeps on deconstructing the entirety of Congress's mission, and in the end Modi's government becomes powerful. Sir, in this country, earlier, the reason why Imran Khan Sahab was made of Teflon was that he also had the government's bully pulpit and media influence as well. Right now, his opponents have that. Don't you think that that is going to have an impact also?
Let me answer first the Indian dimension. If you look at the plight of Congress party in India, that is not because of any corruption allegations or corruption charges. It is because of the Hindutva policy of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party led by Narendra Modi, Sangh Parivar and other hardline Hindu nationalist parties. People
they
in India have started
corruption
believing.
allegations also.
No,
Sonia Gandhi is appearing before.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't say that there weren't any allegations against the Congress, but what I'm saying, those allegations were not the cause of the fall of the Congress party in India. The fall of the causes for the fall of the Congress party in India was because of the Hindutva. And as far as Pakistan is concerned,
and Anna Hazare.
Anna Hazare.
So corruption.
To a limited extent, Farrukh. But if you find parallels in Pakistan, there is a populist politician in the shape of Imran Khan. I agree that he has a cult following, and the cult followers really don't agree whatever you say as far as the political debate is concerned. He has a very, very strong cult following, and it has continued to be there so long Imran Khan is at the helm of the party. So then why not look at the complex situation of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf in a way that it is a political entity. Well, you may disagree with certain policies being pursued by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and particularly you can criticize Imran Khan for his cult following. You can criticize him for the populist politics in Pakistan. But when it is a political entity, it is going to be a political entity and a very powerful political entity. So why not accept
absolutely. Faisal, your has given me that signal that you want to ask the next question.
Yeah, just is it a bad signal?
No. It's a signal that comes right after mine. So I'd prefer it what doesn't.
Barrister Ghori, earlier while you were talking about PTI's stance that they are not defending their case, rather they are more interested in getting the ECP decide about the other party's case. Couldn't it be? I mean, could we say that they are very confident about defending their own case, and they know to some certain extent that if the cases are decided of the other parties, it would be a sort of a huge mess for the other parties because they won't have any proofs or any money trails?
I don't think that's the case, and I think the discussion that we have been having for a little while reflects why that might not be the case. So PTI has tremendous support overseas. PTI is perhaps the only political party that goes on these international fundraisers all across the world. Imran Khan holds these charity dinners. I don't really remember, maybe they must have taken place, but I don't remember Nawaz Sharif, for instance, doing something of the sort, going someplace, gathering a large crowd, charging maybe like $10,000 per plate. We've seen things like these happening with the PTI. Now, when you have things like these, then you start having involvement of companies, because it's companies then who would give money for charity dinners. That's how the global corporate world works. And so when companies start funding you, that is when you go into the category of prohibited funding. Now, as far as PMLN and People's Party are concerned, they rely on perhaps more traditional methods of fundraising, if at all. Usually it's the MNAs and the MPs themselves who just spend money. And that in itself should be a case, by the way. They should try and rope those people in under ROPA, Representation of People's Act, and see how much money is being spent. That election spending should definitely be looked into. There are a lot of court judgments on that. But foreign funding itself, from my experience, whatever it is, I think that it is likely that People's Party and PMLN would not have had much. And even if they've managed to get some money from overseas Pakistanis of their political parties, those would be individuals rather than companies.
Right.
PTI wants this because if PTI were to have the Chief Election Commissioner say that, all right, PMLN, People's Party, they are not guilty of foreign funding, they could say, oh yes, we told you he's biased. Look at this person. We have been saying this all this time. We have been protesting. This shows that this person is a biased person. This shows that his decisions are untrustworthy. And so this is why we want the Election Commission to change.
Right.
This would be the narrative.
Safi, I'm glad that you actually brought up your own experience as well, and I'm going to actually invoke that, and I'm going to ask you to explain what in your mind is an explanation that PTI actually decided to register its PTI Canada as an LLC.
Right, and Barrister Gauri, I'll just add in my question as well, since it's going to be the last one of the show. When we talk about all of this is going on, and of course the previous verdict as well, the courts have been really involved, and they've also come into a lot of limelight in terms of their involvement, their role, their jurisdictions, their Chief Justice as well, and the Supreme Court and its decisions regarding political matters. In all of this till now, and of course it seems that this particular case is also going to be now taken up in the courts. What exactly do you see in terms of how the institution in itself is playing out, and how its future role is going to be like?
Excellent question. So first, Farrukh, you have raised a very valid question about PTI LLC in the US, PTI LLC in Canada, PTI LLC in the Cayman Islands, and in BVI and in various other jurisdictions. I think this is going to be a matter for the Supreme Court to decide. This is something that is new jurisprudence, developing jurisprudence in Pakistan. It's never been done before. In some other countries, it is allowed, for instance, in the US, but traditionally in a country like Pakistan, company funding is not allowed, let alone turning a political party into a company and then operating it as a corporation. Goes against the very basic ideology of politics within Pakistan as per our constitution, goes against the rules that we have. So this is definitely going to be interesting. I've seen some drafts that PTI is building up on the Election Act 2017, saying that this is in consonance with it. But I think this is one of those points that the Supreme Court will decide. And also on Sana's point, now Sana, this is a very, very important issue that you have raised up. And I'm a lawyer, and so this is something that irks me. I want to understand it from the general public. Why do people keep going to the courts for everything? Right now, the PTI is running to the courts. If the decision comes out, the courts are corrupt. If the decision is in their favor, wonderful. This time they were okay, but PMLN will then berate them for being corrupt. Now, everybody keeps attacking the independence of our judiciary time and again, even though the judiciary has shown that it has been giving judgments against everyone, PMLN, People's Party, PTI, even the military. They have given judgments across the board against everyone involved. And yet these same people are constantly being accused of being biased, of not being impartial. And earlier a discussion was taking place on how everybody keeps talking about issues of national security. Everybody keeps calling everyone else a traitor. You know, there is one institution in Pakistan who has not done that. That is the Supreme Court of Pakistan. Every single time charges or fictitious or even, firstly, very little charges of actual treason, Article 6 have come about. If you were to take out a constitutional law book, you would see that there are minimal examples of when Article 6 was actually applied. And even when it was applied historically against, for instance, the likes of Bacha Khan, now when it's coming about against certain people, the courts are very hesitant to call anyone a traitor. The court keeps saying, no, they're not traitors. And
absolutely, I understand your point. Right, Barrister Gauri, unfortunately that's all we have time for, but thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Javed Jadoon, for being a part of the debate and talking to us regarding, of course, the prohibited funding case of the PTI and the aftermath of which we've seen different political parties take up their stance. We're going to be seeing more coming in, of course, from tomorrow's cabinet meeting and what is going to happen in the country. Let's see that we're moving towards a good and progress, and we are focused on issues that are actually of immediate concern, and of course also at the end not putting any political parties in black and white, but really looking at them for who they are and what they do. That's all from the debate.
Well,